Hey, it's Vicky, and I'm here today to share with you my reading plans for March. And I have some big plans, guys. It's kind of a big TBR, but that's because March is one of my favorite months. A, because my birthday's in March, but B, because it's middle grade March, which is a month-long readathon that I have been taking part in for the past few years. And I always look forward to it every year. And it's basically a month-long readathon, like I said, that just encourages everybody to pick up more middle grade. So it is hosted by 3 hosts. There is Krista from Books and Jams, Amanda from The Curly Reader, and Katie from Life Between Words. And there are some prompts to do if, you know, we so choose, and I did find books to fit the prompts. There's going to be some fun stuff going on here on YouTube and over on Instagram for the readathon, so I will post some info down below if you're interested in taking part. And aside from middle grade March, there's also a couple other things that I want to read. So I have a lot on my plate this month, but I'm really excited about everything, so let's get into it. So first we're going to go through my plans for middle grade March. Like I said, there are 5 prompts that I'm going to be following for the readathon. And the first prompt is to read a book that has 5 or more words in the title. So for this one, I always try to do this every middle grade March. I try to find a Goosebumps book to squeeze in there. So this year, I'm going with The Girl Who Cried Monster by R.L. Stine. And this is a book about our main character, Lucy, is the type of kid who likes to play pranks on people. Especially she likes to pretend that there are monsters around and make a big deal about it and just kind of joke around with everybody. And then one day she meets a real one and nobody believes her because she's always telling tales. So this one should be a lot of fun. I remember reading this one as a kid and enjoying it. So yeah, it should be fun. So the next prompt for middle grade March is to read a book featuring an orphan character. So I'm going to be reading Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. And this is about a little boy named Lonnie, goes by Locomotion, who is in the foster care system. When he was 7, he lost his parents. And it's basically he is learning from a teacher how to kind of express his feelings through writing. And so the book is told through verse, which is really interesting. And yeah, I read a couple years ago, I read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, and it was also told in verse, and I really enjoyed it. So I imagine this one's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to reading it. The third prompt for middle grade March is to read a contemporary. And so for this one, I decided to go with this book because I have really been wanting to read this author for a while, and I have not read any of his stuff yet. So I'm going to be reading Ghost by Jason Reynolds. And this is about a young kid named Castle Crenshaw, but he goes by Ghost, who is really into basketball, but kind of discovers by accident that he's actually a really fast runner, and he gets seen or something by this Olympic medalist who is a track coach. So they're like, you have like raw talent, like you need to harness this and, you know, use it to your advantage. But Ghost has a lot of emotional issues that he's working through and all of that. So this is the first book in a series. And so yeah, I want to check this one out and maybe see if the rest of them are good too. I've heard a lot of good things about this one, and I've heard so many good things about Jason Reynolds, and I actually follow him on Instagram, and I just like watching him in interviews and stuff. I just adore him. So it's about time I read one of his books. The next prompt is to read a book either set in Asia or featuring an Asian main character. So I'm going to be reading Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, and this is about a young girl named Jude who moves to America with her mom from Syria and comes to Ohio, I believe it is, to stay with family. And so she's leaving her father and siblings behind, and it's about her just adjusting to moving to a new country and just being in a foreign place. And this one is told in verse also. And yeah, I've heard amazing things about this one, and I'm really excited to check it out. And the last prompt is to read a book that is older than you are. So the book that I am going to be reading was first published in 1971. so it is older than me. And that book is Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim by Robert C. O'Brien. And it's about a mouse named Mrs. Frisbee who has four young children, and she has to move to like her summer home because where she's currently it is not safe. And she has to move her children, and she's widowed. And her son Timothy is really sick. And so that presents a challenge in itself. And so this group of really smart rats decide to help her. So yes, I am slightly familiar with the story because I've seen the movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I kind of know the gist. And so it'll be fun to kind of read the book and compare the two. And yeah, it's a cute book. Okay, so the rest of the books that I'm planning on reading aren't necessarily for middle grade March, although the first one is a middle grade, or maybe it's considered young adult. I should double check that, but this is a book that was actually sent to me for review from the publisher. So thank you, Owl's Nest, for sending this book my way to review, and I'm going to be reading it on my Kindle. And it is called Son of the Deep by K.B. Hoyle. And this is basically a story that is a gender bent version of The Little Mermaid. So you have a young merman who falls in love with a human girl and wants to become human and all of that. We know the story, right? So this one just intrigued me because I personally love the story The Little Mermaid, and I'm just really interested to see how they're going to switch it up. So yeah, I will be reading this one to do a review, and thanks again to Owl's Nest for sending it my way. The next book I'm planning to read in March is for the Buzzword Reading Challenge, and this month the buzzword or words is like locations. So this one, I don't know if it's a bit of a stretch or not, but I'm going with it because I really want to read this book. And that is American Street, right? American Street, that could be a place, that could be a location, it's a street, right? And it's by E.B. Zaboy. And this one is, I believe this one's YA. And it's about a young girl named Fabiola Toussaint who moves from Haiti to Detroit. And that's kind of what got me interested in it, was because of like kind of the sort of local slant. I don't live in Detroit, but I live in the metro Detroit area. So anytime that there's a story that takes place in the Detroit area, I'm interested. And so yeah, this one is about a young girl who moves to Detroit from Haiti and basically, yeah, has to adjust to living in a new country and all of that stuff. So it's interesting because Other Words for Home has a similar storyline, so it'll be interesting to read both of these this month and kind of see how they compare, I guess. But yeah, I've had this book on my TBR for a while and I really want to read it, so there we go. And then the last two books that I have are for the Booktube Spin that I did. The spin took place in January and we have until March 31st to read the two books. If you aren't familiar with the Booktube Spin, it's basically, it's put on by Rick McConnell, oh my gosh, I can't remember his last name, I'm so sorry. I will link his channel though, down below. And basically, you make a list of 20 books and he randomly picks two numbers and you you make a list, you assign each book a number, and then he picks two numbers and you have to read those two books by the end of March. He does it a couple times a year. So this round, yeah, by the end of March I have to read these and I haven't read either of them yet. Saving it to the last minute, right? So the first one is a nonfiction book called What the Eyes Don't See by Mona Hanna-Attisha. And this is a nonfiction book, like I said, about the Flint water crisis, which I'm trying to think when that started. It's been ongoing though for, I want to say, the last 5-6 years or so in Flint, Michigan. They basically had severely contaminated water. It was toxic, full of lead, and people were getting really sick, and yeah, they traced it back to the water supply. It's been a big ongoing thing in the area. So, and I think she's a doctor, and I think she was one of the first people to kind of make the connection and kind of bring awareness to what was going on. This is an important read that I think everybody, even outside of Michigan, should be reading, because it's just horrible that this is even happening. So anyway, Yes, gonna read this one. And the last book I'm reading for the month and for the Booktube Spin is Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. And this takes place in 19th century China, and it centers around a young girl named Lily who, when she's very young, I think like 6 or 7, she's paired up with a Lao Tang, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, Lao Tang, which translates as old same. Which is sort of like a match where she's paired with this woman, and they basically start to write letters back and forth to each other on these fans in sort of a secret language that only like the women in China know, where they can kind of talk to each other without having men interfering with their conversations and stuff. So, and yeah, it's just kind of about their bond over time and how they grow close and everything by writing these letters. And so yeah, this is another one that is a historical fiction book that has been on my TBR for a really long time, and I really am glad that it was one of the ones that was picked for the Booktube Spin, because I have been meaning to read this for years. Okay guys, so like I said, very ambitious March TBR, but I'm really excited to be reading the books I'm reading. I'm excited for middle grade March. It's always a good time, and yeah, I'm excited. What else can I say? So let me know down below what you're planning to read in March. Let me know if you're taking part in middle grade March, because I'd love to hear that too. And yeah, I hope that March treats you well, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.